I'm alongside Miranda, our Arsenal fan, and she's wearing a very classic shirt there. What is that, from the 90s?
It's from the 93 to 94 season, I believe. And I think it was the third kit. Not 100% on that bit, though.
There was a great Instagram photo of Dennis Bergkamp the other day in that shirt, and it was his birthday. I can't remember how old he is now, but Dennis Bergkamp, I'll always remember him as also one of the best strikers I ever saw in the Premier League. But also, number two is the fact that he never travelled on a plane. He would actually get trains or cars to get to the European games. He didn't like flying, so he would always leave earlier than his teammates, and then they'd meet him up there. He's like, "Oh, you're right, Dennis. You got here, okay? Yeah, I'm here to go."
I never knew that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So any commentator back then, when he scored a good goal and called him the Flying Dutchman, you'd have gone, "Well, you're kind of wrong there." So there you go. You learn something new every day. But anyway, we're here to talk about Arsenal because it's not been it's been a bit of a dull season for Mikel Arteta and his team. And, of course, it's mad to think that it was only a few months ago that Arteta got himself his first silverware with a great win over Chelsea at Wembley in the FA Cup final. But then a few months later, a string of defeats just before Christmas, followed by a Europa League semi-final defeat, has pretty much cemented that they won't be getting any European football next season. Miranda, I know that's hard to take, and I'm just giving you the facts. I'm not trying to rub it in as a United fan. But how do you feel? Because it's a weird one, because I think Arsenal, I was expecting a bit more from Arsenal this season because of that FA Cup win. You know, sometimes you'd look at the silverware from last season to be a boost and have the players feel confident and think they can do it.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing, but I'm trying to take positives from it as much as I can. And I've seen a lot of other people express the opinion that perhaps now we're not in European football, we'll perhaps get rid of those players who are there purely for a quick win, or who don't want to put that effort in because they don't want to be at the club if there's no European football. And that maybe that will help us to properly clear out the players who care about or who don't care about the club, keep those ones that do care, and get players in who really want to propel the club upwards and forwards, and they've got that drive rather than, you know, that desperation to just get into Europe and win a few trophies straight away, who don't want to put that effort in.
And I think, of course, you'd expect the media straight after that Villarreal, not defeat. It was a goalless draw at the end, but it meant you went out of the Europa League. How did you feel at full time? Because it just feels weird. I didn't see the game because I was watching Man U at the time, but it just feels a bit weird to see a 2-1 first leg not have any more goals added when you're at home to Villarreal.
I constantly get disappointed when I watch Arsenal. That's not an uncommon thing for an Arsenal fan to say. But it's not, you know, they don't lose because they haven't just scored those chances on the day, or something's gone wrong. You don't have those players that you want. It seems that some matches we turn up and there's just no drive. And I don't know if that's because of the certain players on the pitch, if there are some that work better together, or who maybe don't like each other in the dressing room. But there are days where we get that drive, like, you know, the fantastic match against West Brom just after Christmas, after the Boxing Day win against Chelsea. We have that drive some days, and some days it's just not there. They just don't show up. And I think that's going to be key for us fixing next season. If we're going to, this season's been very patchy, and if we want to have, you know, a steady, good season, that's going to be key.
I think what would have hurt Arsenal fans on Thursday night, and I'm sure you might agree with this, was seeing your previous manager get the result and in a way show that he could do it with another team instead. Unai Emery. I mean, I still think Emery should have had more time at Arsenal. I know he wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but I think but when you've just had Arsene Wenger for 20 plus years, it's always going to be hard for the next guy to come in.
I think there's a very toxic atmosphere in the dressing rooms at Arsenal, and there were a lot of players who got away with a lot under Wenger towards the end.
Yeah,
and they
felt like he didn't have control at the end.
Yeah,
Wenger,
exactly.
I feel.
Unai Emery came in and tried to take control, And I think there were some players who didn't like that, who actively tried to get rid of him because they weren't getting that special treatment that they got before. They weren't happy about it. And interestingly, there were 2 players who have moved to a German club. I can't remember which one. One of them is Mustafi, and I think we have another player out there on loan at the moment, Socrates, I think. And the manager there has accused the 2 of them of trying to get rid of him, of plotting to get rid of him. So there's clearly not a healthy atmosphere in those dressing rooms. And I think there are perhaps players who are trying to do the same to Arteta at the moment because they're not getting that treatment, that special treatment that they want.
But shouldn't there be a bit of respect for Arteta? Because, you know, he had a good few years at Arsenal. He won a few trophies. Okay, it might have all been the FA Cup, but they're still trophies. And at least he can say, you know, he was under a good manager as well of Arsene Wenger. So do you think they've lost respect for Arteta a little bit? But at the same time, I do think it was always going to be hard for Arteta to go to a club that, quite frankly, is bigger than him right now, and he hasn't made himself a name anywhere else. He was under the management of Pep Guardiola.
I don't think it's an issue of players losing respect for Arteta. I think it's an issue of them never having that, them believing that they are bigger than that club, or they are there. Arsenal is there as a stepping stone almost for them. There's not that belief that that club will help them and that they want to stay there. And that worries me. And, you know, with Arteta bringing through kids like Saka and Smith Rowe, who do have that passion, who love that club, like Smith Rowe's been supporting that club since he was, really young.
Yeah.
He has that drive and he wants that. And it's other players that I worry about. I can't name any. I don't know what they're like in their dressing room, but there are some for me who I feel are not playing for their manager, who just don't have that respect for him. And I think this summer is a great opportunity to really try and get rid of them.
Yeah, I think that's the thing we've seen with Saka and Smith Rowe in that first half of the season. They've been epic. And I think it was Saka who scored that ridiculous goal against Chelsea as well. I mean, it was great. Even though I'm not an Arsenal fan, it was great to see because you want to see the academy football still going through, even at the biggest of clubs.
It's because he wants it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's trying at every opportunity. Him, Smith Rowe, Martinelli. I mean, I know Willock's at Newcastle at the moment, but there's a drive and they want it. And I think there was a goal disallowed for Smith Rowe. I can't remember who it was against. It was a game. Oh, I know who it was against. Slavia Prague in I think the second leg of that game. That goal was disallowed and there was suddenly a drive. And then within 2 or 3, I think 4 minutes actually, including the time it took for them to rule it out on VAR, they'd scored again because they had that drive. That goal was disallowed. We go again.
Yeah.
And I don't get that from the rest of the team. And that's what disappoints me.
Yeah, I mean, we don't live far from Crewe Alexandra, and they're known for producing youth players, and it's always been that their main objective is to bring in youth, local players, and to hopefully help them go from Crewe Alex to a bigger club and a bigger opportunity. And I just think, you know, we need to see more of that in the Premier League anyway from a lot of clubs, because I just couldn't be a person that would pay 70-odd million for Pepe. And I look at these players like mercenaries. They're there for the money, and most of them will do the job, but most of them won't either. And then regardless of how much you paid them, the money's gone down the tube if it doesn't work out. So it is all about trying to find someone to play for the badge in a way.
It is, and I love at the moment where Premier Leagues loan their players to championship clubs. I think it's such a great scheme. You know, those championship clubs are getting those Premier League players to help them. Those players get experience outside the Prem. It works beautifully. And I think that's very important. And that will do a lot for us, particularly, you know, with Willock. I mean, I know he's at another Prem club, but getting that game time will help us to develop. But ultimately, he's there. He's playing well because he wants to get back. He wants to play for Arsenal and show that he's capable of being in that first team. And that drive is there. You've got players like, as much as I love him, Aubameyang, who
has a terrible season.
But he believes he's there no matter what. He deserves to be there. Like, what an awful
compared
display
to
that
other
was
players,
when he turned up late to that Tottenham game. Doesn't that just show you the type of ego that some of the players have, that they think they are critical to a club, and just because Arteta's gone, you're not, and you're going to be dropped because you were late. I think that there is a mentality from players to gang up on him and blame him for their mistakes because they want him out. They want those egos fed. And I think Arteta takes a lot of stick for things that aren't his fault. I mean, the West Ham game that happened that went awfully for us. I don't know if you saw in the post-match interview, Lacazette came out and said, "Oh, well, Arteta gave us a game plan and we ignored it. We did our own thing."
Did he say that? I didn't.
Yeah,
Oh my.
He said we did our own thing, but actually he was right. Now, for me, not only is Arteta right, but what sort of mentality is that your manager has told you to play a certain way and you've gone, no, I know better. It's disgusting. You can't, and that's why our season has been dreadful because we're getting matches with players who care and who have that drive, and with players who think they know better than a manager.
Yeah. I mean, the main question of this whole topic is, should Arsenal stick with Arteta? And I think, from what we've both already discussed even before we went live, is the fact that I believe in giving managers a chance, and I believe in ruthlessness, which is to get rid of players if they're not helping you out. At the end of the day, you're a team, and if you fail, you all fall as a team. No one gets away with it. Yes, you can have one or two players to go, like Aubameyang last season, and say, well, he's been our best player, so he gets a free ticket. But it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, you've all failed because you're part of a team. And I completely agree where there's ego, and it is a bit of a, as long as I do all right, I don't have to worry. But I just think with Arteta, people should remember he started at the start of 2020 pretty much. And he got his first win against Man United at home, which was a very convincing performance for what I can remember at the Emirates. And then let's not forget, he had 3 months not managing the club because of lockdown, the first lockdown. There was no football. And then he goes and gets the FA Cup. And he's only been manager for technically 6 months. And I just think, okay, it's not gone well since, but maybe if he gets given a few more transfer windows to get the squad he wants, and then you can judge him. But sadly, we live in football right now, which is sadly, if you lose 5 games in a row, you're out.
I am of the opinion that we would be papering over cracks if we were to suggest that the losses at the moment are solely Arteta's fault and a new manager will come in and fix that. That's not the case. We need to clear out. We need Arteta to have a fair go. I know he had a fair go at the January transfer window, but he needs to be able to do that summer transfer window without the likes of Edu telling him who to buy. He needs to be allowed to do that on his own, to develop his own squad. I mean, I know he's been a little bit hit and miss this season, but Thomas Partey, I think, was a great buy. And that was one of Arteta's suggestions. Gabriel as well. I've been loving him defensively. I think he's fabulous. But, it's time, isn't it? And getting rid of Arteta, who's brought in a couple of players, you're going to get the same situation that Arteta came into. They're coming into a club with players they haven't chosen. They can't do anything with that. If you give Arteta time, he develops his own squad, his own vision. If that doesn't work, I know there's the argument maybe we've wasted an extra 3 or 4 years. But that's 3 or 4 years where it'll just be risk new manager. You've got to risk it.
That's the whole point, isn't it?
I don't believe that Arsenal deserve that top 6, the big 6 title. Leicester are in our place, essentially. Yeah. And to get back to what we were, it needs to be hard work. Just sacking your manager and bringing a new one in isn't going to fix that.
I think it's the way of, you've got to compare, you've got to look at, I think it's a fair assessment to look at a club's performance in all competitions in the last 10 years, where, let's be honest, before Arsene Wenger had left the club, Arsenal weren't great. They picked up 1 or 2 FA Cups, which again is another, sorting out the cracks, covering it up a little bit with some paper, and you can hope that the following season they're going to do better, but it just never happened. And then Arsene Wenger did leave on a bad note. But I just think the club as a whole should look at the whole structure and not just always blame the manager and sack him and think, if we sack him and get someone else in, it could work this next guy. Well, how do you know that? Because you've still got to pay out the manager that you've sacked and then get money in for the new manager with a long contract, because they ain't going to stay for 1 year or anything like that. So I just think it's like that with a lot of clubs. It's like that with Man United at the moment. People say, sacking Solskjaer would probably help United. Well, we haven't been competitive in Europe since Fergie left, and it's been nearly 10 years. So I think there's that comparison.
You have that problem as well, that regardless of what's going on with the management and the players, Obviously, there's massive, massive disruption with ownership at the moment.
Yeah.
Everything that happened with the ESL. I think more change with a manager is not the answer. You know, if the players feel like they do have someone who is going to be there for them regularly, like Arteta, who will work with them. You know, at the moment we don't know. I know Stan Kroenke said he's not going to sell, but those bids are still coming in. There's Arsenal fans are personally very unhappy with his his ownership. We're not happy. So with all of that going on, a new manager, well, strong opinion, but I think new manager, we could be looking at relegation next season because for me, if you're bringing someone new in who then doesn't have their own players, with the management, with the players, with the ego, it's a recipe for disaster.
You heard it here first, folks, on Let's Talk Sport. And if they do change the manager and that happens, we're going to keep this on file. Miranda said it first. That's some statement. I mean, they have acted like a bottom half team. Like before Christmas, they lost every game that was on the fixture list, and that was, for me, I mean, me and my brother, we're United fans, but when we were both growing up, it was always Arsenal United at the top, and it's just mad to see Arsenal's empire fall so badly.
They're not losing because they get unlucky or they don't have the players. It's a lack of teamwork, a lack of drive. You have those skilled players there. You know, if Aubameyang went to Man City or Man United or whatever, he would play well there. That's great. It's not to do with, those individual players. Get rid of them. They are not representative of the club, and work on some sort of team ethic. I mean, if you compare this to another sport like basketball, the Chicago Bulls, that win, their coach was part of their lives. They worked together really closely. There was a shared dream, a shared goal, which you don't get at the moment. You don't have that at Arsenal. A lot of players are out for, I want this for my career. They're not there about the club, and our younger players are. So let's utilize them.
So, I mean, I guess really the final question is, Miranda, what does Arteta need to do, and how much time should he get? Because I think if he was going to get sacked, I think we would have seen it. I think we would have seen it at least straight after that Europa League result. Yeah. But I think we would have seen it by Christmas.
I would like to see him get another year. Let's see him have his summer transfer window. Bring in who he wants without the direction of you have to buy this person from Edu. I know that's going to be difficult. We don't have, as big a budget as some of the bigger clubs at the moment, but we see him bring in some of the players that he wants. We see him get rid of some of the deadwood or people that might be causing problems in that dressing room. And, maybe we have a rocky season to start off with whilst we get acquainted with new players, and that's okay. I'm prepared for those losses. But what I want to see is us losing, but we tried. And there's not even that at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, it's dark times for Arsenal and for Miranda's background right now. I had to put that in there. But of course, who knows what can happen for Arsenal this season. What do you folks think at home? Let us know in the comments.